The Humankind Game Cultures of Africa DLC is upon us, and as luck would have it, I've got a copy to give away over on Twitter to one of my followers. So do jump over there, follow, and interact with that tweet for your chance to win. But that's not the point of this video. We're going to break down these three cultures, the first 3 out of 6 that are included in the DLC pack, and we're going to start with what could be the spiciest of them all. Here's some gameplay footage of it. Swahili. Swahili are a merchant culture introduced into humankind's third era, ancient and classical being the first 2. Let's have a look at specifically what Swahili do, and then we'll see their units in action, and we're going to do the same thing for all 3 of these cultures. What's interesting about Swahili is they are a merger, in my opinion, between aesthete abilities and merchant. Take a look at their trait, which you'll keep forever. Plus 10 stability on harbour, and plus 10 stability on harbours per adjacent regular districts. This is massive, particularly, of course, if you can get a Phoenician Carthaginian build. You can have many harbours and cities. This is amazing, actually, because I think it could almost be the first culture of its kind that does this. Take a look at its district as well, plus 5 money per number of unique types of resources that are available, at the cost of the normal stability, and 2 influence per adjacent coastal water tiles. It also counts as both a farmer's and market quarter. I'll show you what it looks like very soon in-game, because like I said, we have gameplay footage for all of these. What I'm most interested about with the district as well here is that it also provides you with a very powerful source of food. Watch the yields as I go to place it down, or not me, of course. All of this footage is courtesy of the official Humankind YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed to them, you probably should be. As we place it down, though, we see that it yields this one, in this case, around 20 food and, of course, gold and, of course, influence. The yields here are pretty impressive, actually. I suspect the Swahili will fill a much-needed void in the game of firstly providing us with a culture that is both a merchant but can earn stability, probably the best of its kind, but more importantly, an alternative to the Norse in this era. You don't have to play militarist to play with a really good naval culture. Speaking of, take a look at their unique unit. It is a ship, it's a naval transport, and a nimble craft, allowing embarking and disembarking instantly on your units. Here it is playing out in practice. Watch as the horseman jumps into the sea. It gains all of those wonderful traits. It is powerful in the sea, and a unique naval unit, which we don't see many of. And here you can see in slow motion a beautiful look of what a Swahili city might look like. To wrap up the Swahili review here before we move into the second culture, I think they're a very powerful one indeed. Money, food, stability, and influence, and you can navigate the sea probably easier than almost any other culture can. Very exciting. Let's take a look at the Garamantes next. They are, in my opinion, maybe not quite as spicy as Swahili, but they do introduce a gameplay feature, i.e. interacting with sterile tiles, which we'll see in a minute, that no other culture in the game to date has. But firstly, let's take a look at their trait. You can see they receive plus 5 influence on main plaza if the city is growing. They are an agrarian culture, so that suits them very well. You will, of course, hold on to that trait for the rest of the game, and their district builds onto it as well, plus 3 food and plus 2 food per adjacent sterile tiles, and plus 1 food per rocky field and 1 food per stone field. You can see how this comes together. Wonderful influence generation, again seeing a sort of aesthete influence and or stability feel here, but crucially we get food and we get it from sterile terrain. And that is the thing that I'm most excited about the Garamantes, because even though modders, shout out to all the wonderful Humankind modders, have taken advantage of sterile terrain already, we're yet to really see many cultures that like specifically sterile terrain, whether it's sterile terrain in the desert that produces no yields, or of course up in the frozen north. I dare say if we're seeing interaction with sterile terrain here, we will probably see it more in future. Speaking of seeing it more, let's take a look at their district. Here you can see it in-game and a sneaky look at some changed UI, I believe. Either way, +2 food on sterile terrain is very powerful. The other powerful thing that you can see here as they go to place down the district is that it doesn't need to immediately stack next to your others. You can place it down like you would place a garrison in any normal game of Humankind. That means you can maximize yields out of this puppy, meaning that the additional bonus of generating food from sterile terrain is more powerful still because you don't have to waste time building out to terrain that would otherwise maybe not be very useful. Their javelin riders are actually very useful. A ranged move 1 after attack can move 1 tile after attacking, which is an interesting slight nerf to what that promotion would normally be. But have a look at their movement, power, and range. You can see they have 27 strength, 6 movement, and 3 range. These puppies, these javelin riders, the Olmecs would be proud. Look like a very powerful unit. You can see a little bit of in-game combat footage here for them as well. You see the move and shoot feature playing out in practice, right? You fire, you move 1 tile away, and you bring someone else in place either to defend the unit, because it is a ranged unit, or not. Bantu is our third pick. Let's jump into Bantu. I put them at the end of the video because I have talked about them a little bit already, but now that we're framing them in the context of these other cultures, I think we really should revisit them. Again, you can see an influence or stability theme, +2 influence per number of adjacent empires on territory. This really benefits, of course, from larger maps. It also benefits you slightly for keeping your opponents or neighbors alive. The more empires, the better, right? So large maps and also likely peaceful playthroughs, or of course a bitsy and broken empire will do well with this too. They're essentially a nomadic people, and I think maybe one of the strongest ones in the game. Think about the Huns, but brought into a less militarist factor, just like Swahili was brought the Norse into a less militarist climate. Here you can see the unit playing out in practice, and if you didn't notice it before, I'll highlight it now for you. They do not use any influence to found their outposts. That is really their most significant strength of their unique nomadic unit as well. Boom, there you can see play out again. No influence, no problem. Although you will be generating more influence, making it even easier potentially as the Banu to do things like more trade or maybe even claiming wonders. Either way, I think that the Swahili and the Banu potentially have the most impact here. These powerful harbors, combined with influence generating and stability generating mechanisms in all 3 of these cultures, make them, I think, potentially very powerful players. I think probably so far, all 3 of these will hit in above average in their eras, maybe even taking a top 1, 2, or 3 slot. More to come on that. Thank you very much for watching this video. I will of course break down all of the other cultures when they release the other 3, and you bet your backside I'll be covering them on the channel and in live streams. Again, I'm doing a giveaway on Twitter for a code for this DLC if you would like it. And until then everybody, I'll see you next time.